human jawbone was discovered in the mid-19th century, it was very controversial. Many scientists could not believe that humans existed in such a distant time in the past. So what they said was, to explain the discovery, they said, well, obviously it was some sort of hoax. Some workmen had gone to some cemetery somewhere, maybe a Roman cemetery in the region, and uncovered some human jaw and had planted it in the excavation for Boucher de Perthes to find. And actually that's the story that you see in every textbook today. Now what you don't see in the textbooks is that Boucher de Perthes was very upset by these accusations, so he went out and he performed 12 additional excavations at this site under conditions that completely ruled out any type of hoaxing or planting of artifacts. The excavations that he conducted were witnessed by professional geologists, other scientists, other responsible people, and in those additional excavations, he found in the same layers 100 additional anatomically modern human bones and teeth. But you won't read about that in the textbooks. So what I would propose is that those new discoveries confirm the original discovery of the anatomically modern human jaw. And what we have here is evidence for an anatomically modern human population that existed in northern Europe over 300,000 years ago. And I would propose it was members of that population who made the spears, the exquisitely made throwing spears that were found by Thema in northern Germany in the 1990s. I presented a paper on this topic at a major international conference on history of science. It was published in a peer-reviewed conference proceedings volume. If you like to have a look at it, I welcome you to do that. And again in the 1990s, some Australian archaeologists made some interesting discoveries of human artifacts on Flores Island in Indonesia. Their report was published in Nature. Here's an illustration of some of the artifacts found there. The artifacts were found in this layer of their excavation, which they dated using the zircon fission track method. They got an age of about 800,000 years. And again, they had to decide, well, who made these artifacts? They decided it couldn't have been human beings like us because, of course, as everyone knows, human beings like us did not exist 800,000 years ago. So, who made the artifacts? Again, they decided must have been Homo erectus, because that's who lived during that time. Nobody else was around. Who else could have done it? But there was a problem with that. Now, this map shows the area as it existed 800,000 years ago. You can see the coast of Australia comes out further. It was a time of lowered sea levels. But even during that time, we can see that Flores Island is separated from the nearest land masses by wide expanses of ocean. So the question was, well, how did Homo erectus get to Flores Island? So the archaeologist suggested, well, he made a boat and sailed there, or paddled there on a raft, which was really quite an extraordinary proposal, because up to the time of this discovery, archaeologists and anthropologists considered, deliberate ocean crossing something only that humans of our type did. And actually, the oldest evidence they had for it was evidence for sea crossing of anatomically modern humans to Australia about 50,000 years ago. And also, they had some evidence in Europe, for deliberate sea crossings to the islands in the Mediterranean around 25,000 years ago. So to be proposing that Homo erectus was doing this, 800,000 years ago was really going outside the box. But I believe there's another solution, to this little dilemma. And the solution lies here in Java. It was in Java that the very first fossils of Homo erectus were discovered back in the 1890s by the Dutch researcher Dubois. He found this quite primitive skull cap with these very pronounced eyebrow ridges, and he also found a year later in the same excavation, but about 15 meters away, this thigh bone, which he considered to be a little bit primitive, and he put the two together, the skull bone and the thigh bone, and said, well, here we have the Java ape man, Pithecanthropus erectus, which is now known under the genus name Homo erectus. And that's a story you'll see in every textbook. What you don't see in the textbooks is that later in the 1970s, two prominent British physical anthropologists very carefully studied this thigh bone, this femur. And they found it was identical in every respect to an anatomically modern human femur in all of its measurements and characteristics. They also found that this thigh bone was different than any other Homo erectus thigh bone that was found after this first one, and many have been found in Africa and China. So their report, if you'd like to have a look at it, is here. But I think it's very interesting that the thigh bone is considered to be exactly like that of a modern human being. Because according to Dubois, this is his original map of the stratigraphy at the site, the skull and the thigh bone were found in the exact same layer. And according to modern geologists who have used the potassium-argon method to date this site, this layer where both the bones were found is 800,000 years old, roughly. So what I think we have here is evidence that two types of hominids were existing in Java about 800,000 years ago. First, there was a population of Homo erectus, as represented by the Homo erectus skull, and there was also a population of anatomically modern humans coexisting along with them, as represented by the anatomically modern human femur found in the same layer. And I would propose it was members of this anatomically modern human population that made the sea crossing to Flores Island and left the stone tools there. So, the message is that to explain this type of evidence, we don't necessarily have to try to dress up Homo erectus, raise Homo erectus to the human cultural level. There's another explanation. There's actual physical evidence that anatomically modern humans were existing 300,000 years ago in Europe, 800,000 years ago in Indonesia. In 1979, Mary Leakey and her co-workers found dozens of footprints at a place called Laetoli in the country of Tanzania in East Africa. And according to Mary Leakey, these footprints were indistinguishable from anatomically modern human footprints. That's what she said in her original report, which was published in National Geographic. And now the problem was, I should say, first of all, that other physical anthropologists and archaeologists have confirmed her original judgment. Paleontologist Tim White, make no mistake about it, they are like modern human footprints. Russell Tuttle, the Laetoli footprints are indistinguishable from modern human footprints. Now the problem is These footprints are found in layers of solidified volcanic ash 3.7 million years